Welcome to Verbal Pick Radio, where we give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. Now, what we do here at Verbal Pick Radio, and we say verbal image of life, we do interviews, and we talk about different subjects and different issues that affect people in their everyday lives, different topics. We even get into metaphysics. We get into what we would call power to the people, the movement. We talk about different things such as post-traumatic slave disorder, as we had Jasmine Blue on the last segment that we shared with you all. But today I got a special guest in the house. I got Muhammad 2G. You may know Muhammad 2G from, we call him Mr. Don't You Go Nowhere. A song, man, that inspired me to continue through music, and especially with back at Lane Creek, Highway 6 area, CAP from Carpetone, Conspiracy. You had, back then it was POP. Then you had Marcus Mudd. You had JP. You had KCOG. I mean, but the talent. And so when I'm studying the song Don't You Go Nowhere, and he's talking about his father's record collection and that rhythm and that vibrational pitch and that inspiration that touched him through different musicians, that music was essential, and the talent and the skills in which they played. He had a sort of tutorial, and he taught himself. And I would see him on the keyboard, laying out tracks. It's like coming out of his mind, right out of Houston. So definitely we like to welcome him to the show, Mr. Muhammad 2G. Brother Muhammad 2G, how you feeling, Brother Muhammad 2G?
Good. How y'all doing today at Verbal Pick Radio? It's your boy Muhammad 2G here with my good brother Cole Black. And I don't know what he finna ask me or finna have me talking about, but I'm ready for it.
Yes, sir. Well first, because we like to start, we're going to start from the past, then we're going to work our way up to the present, then we're going to do our foregoing outlook into the future as visionaries. Okay. Right? Now, first, in that song, Don't You Go Nowhere, me personally, I felt as though you were telling your life story. In a sense. Mm-hmm. And you can tell when a person is telling his life story because the rhythm or the vibration in the voice, when you hear that truth, it penetrates that soul. It penetrates that energy within one's body, and it allows them to wake up. And then you tune in your ear and you like, okay, wait a minute. Something is taking place right now, right? And that was just started. But as far as your foundation for music, did it come from the record collection?
Absolutely. I just got to say that it's that particular song in my career, and that's 28 years now from when we all started. That's me and my brothers. We all started at the same time generally. The record collection was when I was 5 years old. My daddy, I met my dad when I was 5 years old, and he actually came to my house, and he asked me what I wanted for Christmas. So it was around this time, which my birthday is around early December as well. So anyway, he asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I answered him, I want a record player.
All right.
And at that time, record players was the big deal, you know what I'm saying? It was like what we call a CD or MP3 today. Really an MP3, that type of thing. But back then, it was a record player. We had records, 45s and 33s. Those of us that's old as I am, you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
But ultimately, I don't know how long, it might have been a week later, but he brought me that record player back.
Come on.
And when he came back, he had the record player, and then it was about, it might have been 15 to 20 records.
Right.
And my dad, at that time, was just getting into the ministry, And so he just basically gave me all of the records that he had prior to his ministry,
Right.
or to his commitment to the ministry, which I'm grateful, so grateful that he did.
Yes, sir.
Even though you have your preachers that they don't want to associate with anything prior to the church, which is usually how it goes. But for some reason, he gave me that record collection, and man, it changed my life.
Yeah, the universe opened up.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
You seeing stars for real.
He ain't know what he did.
That's right,
He ain't
man.
know what he did.
Come on. Now, I consider Carpet Tone Conspiracy, CAP Carpet Tone Conspiracy, I consider them as one of the pioneers in Houston when Houston was forging its way in the hip-hop community, in the hip-hop era at that time, because it was in the beginning stages. You all was out around the time of the original Ghetto Boys. You all did the song for the police. What's the show? The City Under Siege that they did in Houston. I mean,
Absolutely.
talent shows at the high school.
Absolutely.
Forging a way. I took a song to my partner Luscious Ice at KTSU 90.9. He put it on.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at McGregor Park. For those who remember when McGregor Park was jumping back in the day, man, I rode through when people were jamming. Don't miss what you say about Texas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You talking about Southern Hospitality?
Southern Hospitality.
Yeah.
Want some? Come and get some.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
I'm at the park. I'm like, yeah, and then my partners, we in the car. That's back in the day. I'm in a Oldsmobile Tornado 85 and Vogues, man.
And look, he'll come to school with it too.
Jamming, man, because it's like, these my partners, man. We grew up, together, on this music. And so now we're still on that, but for those who don't know, I'm sitting here with a person who out of Houston, who platinum artist, who wrote and produced What You're Looking At for Whitney Houston. Now, a lot of people don't have that in their catalog, or don't have that to say, because he, before her untimely passing, he had a hand in a project that went around the world, especially in European markets.
That's right.
And, to come out of Houston, go to Atlanta on cue with skills and produce a song that went platinum, who can say that? And the reason why I'm doing this interview is because sometimes we don't give credence to those who pave ways, or we don't acknowledge how big of a deal something like that is.
Yeah.
Because Whitney Houston would go down as one of the greats, before she went through her ordeal, but the voice, was there,
That's right.
And to be in that atmosphere, what was that like to be around that atmosphere with Sister Whitney?
I guess it was surreal because, and then it was different for me because, or it wasn't different for me because, I guess my nature, I think it's even to this day, I just work. I don't care about, celebrity and who it is, and I don't get off into those things, and never did.
Right.
And it was like, when I was around her, it was almost like other people had to continue to remind me that, hey, you working with Whitney.
Yeah, you like.
And I'm not saying that to sound like I'm hard or nothing like that, but just to say that I always was about the music, about the final product, and just to attest to what I'm saying. When I first got in the studio with her and began the process of producing like I normally was doing prior to starting the session with her, I was beating her down. In other words, I was asking her to repeat it over and do it over and, oh, okay, let's try this. Oh, let's try that. I was giving her an energy that I think she had long forgotten about.
Right.
So she was a celebrity now, and now she's meeting an energetic producer that don't care about who she is.
Right.
He just wants a good final product.
Right.
So with that being said, I remember her coming out of the studio and she was just like, ooh. She just came out of there. She ain't asked me, hey, can I come out for a second?
Right.
No, she just came out of there and she said, ooh, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Right? So that, of course, was a hint for me
Right.
to understand that, okay, man, you killing me.
Right, you're bad.
Like, yeah, So
Slow
the
down.
second sign was them, the A&R pulling me over to the side and being able to say, you know what, hey, tomorrow we're gonna put you in the studio with Babyface.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
With her. I ain't understand what was gonna happen
Right.
at that time when he said that to me. I'm young. I'm just a producer.
Right.
So what ended up happening, of course, was when I got in the session with him, I saw how he conducted his session with her,
Okay.
which was light years in difference of how I was.
Right.
But my background was coming from the lack of computers, the
Right.
lack of an engineer that'll sit there and, fix whatever it is that I fix. I had to do everything myself.
Right.
So that is what I brought into the studio. That energy that I had
Right.
was the extra energy that's needed when you don't have as much.
That's right. But
So-
but it helped Whitney take it back to the streets.
Absolutely.
Find that identity.
Absolutely.
You need that because that's where she started from to build up her career.
Absolutely.
But you are a perfectionist in your music, man. And we getting into some more celebrities you dealt with. But now, as being a perfectionist in what you do as far as your craft, now I'm sort of similar that way because I'm like you. Facebook, social media, man, I had to get people, man, to do stuff for me on that social. I'm not on there every day. You know what I mean? Sending out tweets and pictures and hey, man, this is what I'm doing because I'm working on a project. So I'm concentrating on this. And people like, well, man, when you going to send out some posts? We got to put this in. I got to take time I got to block time out just to do that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
That's the day and age we living in.
That's right. Now another celebrity, and I got pictures with Shaq. Man, we were at Scores though. Me, him, and Rashad, bruh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, kicking
That's
it.
crazy.
And but that one of his when he was into the music industry, you worked with him also.
Mm-hmm. Now I did work with him. It was after he had released his projects, and it might have been a few years later. Okay,
Right.
because this was like 2002.
Yes, sir.
Somewhere up in there, and so he had, kind of laid his hat down on rapping. He had done a couple of albums or whatever. He had did his Twism records,
Right.
and all that. Matter of fact, when I was in LA in '97, I ran across where he had his office, where he had his Twism office, and I was right down the hall in another studio.
Uh-huh.
So I hadn't met him yet,
Right.
but I met his main guy out in L.A.
Right.
on Hollywood Boulevard. So later, for me to have met him and to work with him, it all just fell into place.
Yeah. You back to the pad, Universe lining it up. Got the record collection.
Absolutely.
Is lining things up because you destined, man, for greatness. Coming out from the South because a lot of people don't understand is, in the South, we keep it 100 on what we do.
Absolutely.
We understand hard work and dedication to make it, but humble.
Absolutely.
With whoever we dealing with, you can be the biggest celebrity but it's hey, how you doing? Let's move. What you got going on?
That's right.
Because we see the value within ourselves as well. We know the God within.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So definitely, we keep rolling, right? So from that point, now you come into, was that before Don't You Go Nowhere, or was that?
That was actually after Don't You
Don't
Go
You
Nowhere.
Go Nowhere.
When I worked with Shaq, primarily because at the time when Don't You Go Nowhere was released, I only had 2 songs, okay? And there was a one called Jerk, and this was me trying to come back to the game as a rapper / producer, and honestly, I had given up. I was like, nah, I ain't gonna rap no more. But I was in a situation that basically forced me to become an artist. Right. And so, of course, I'm familiar with that territory. So I was like, all right, well, let me go and write again. Did that. Then the second song I did was Don't You Go Nowhere. And so it kicked off. And then I was forced to do an album now because the song was so hot. Right. So now everybody want an album.
They want more.
Yeah. But at the same time, I'm dealing with Whitney. I'm flying back and forth, and we trying to finish a song. Right. And that didn't even start from a song. We wasn't even supposed to work with each other. That was a whole nother, it's a whole nother story to it. But either way, to answer your question, to get back around to it, that was after Don't You Go Nowhere had took off, and I was completing the album, Don't You Go Nowhere. That was the name of the album. Right. And Shaq was introduced to me through the CEO of the label, DAL, which I was on. Right. And they were frat brothers, and they also knew each other. So he brought them to the studio, and he had the duck to come in the door. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's a huge cat. Yeah, right. Yeah, so he came in there, and they was playing my beats for him, and then Swisher. I don't know if you know Swisher, but that's my boy. He one of the frat brothers as well. He pointed out to Shaq, hey, this right here, this track right here, man, this hot, you know. And I don't know why he's picked that particular track, but it was just like, to me. Right. I was like, man, I got so many better ones, you know. Right. But he had him laying on that one, and Shaq was like, give me some paper and a pen. Yeah. And he wrote him a verse right then and there, and he spit it for me, and he said, I don't want nothing for it, man. You talented, and I think you gonna make it, you know. So he laid it down for me, and you know, so that's kind of how that went. Okay, that's real, man. Definitely, that's real, and much love for Shaq for showing love, man. Definitely, because he be in and out of the H-Town a lot. You know what I mean? Absolutely. This is H-Town. Now, from that perspective, now I remember I'm coming from South Park down I-10, and I heard it on the radio for the first time because I didn't know you was recording it. Don't You Go Nowhere. You know, I was still jamming that Don't Try to Play Pop. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I'm hearing that, and matter of fact, my wife, which at the time we were dating, I said, man, that show sounds like my partner. You know what I mean? That's crazy. On the radio. That's crazy. And you know, and after they said the name, I say, man, that's my on the radio. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because you see these movies, and you know they working in the studio or whatnot, and they might be at home or in the car somewhere, and they hear it on the radio, and like, come on, man, it's surreal. You know what I mean? Yeah. So definitely, man, and like I said, you all inspired me to do my venture time I did in the music game. You know what I mean? So yeah, definitely much love. So now we moving into the present time, right? Now you working. You currently got a project that you not involved in, but the project that you're finishing up. You know, without giving out too much, because you know people are trying to grab what's hot. You know what I mean, and run with it, like, you know what I mean. Try to beat you to the race. But on that note though, if you didn't create it, and if it's not original, even if you take it, the energy still not gonna be. It ain't gonna be. Yeah. It ain't gonna work for you. But to be honest with you, and I know, you know, I'm wrapping up what you was about to say to a degree because I understand you so well, sir. Well, the project first is called American Pimp, all right, and it's a trilogy. It's a 3-album project, and ultimately, I've been working on American Pimp since 2005. Okay. So that's a lot of years. Right. We in 2016 right now, and I'm just the kind of person that I will milk an idea until I get it all right.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
when I said you a perfectionist, I mean if one hair out of place, we got to get this right. You know, I done had an artist in the studio, and you done did this. Okay, we got to try this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it makes the project, and it makes people appreciate
Absolutely.
it better when they hear it.
It's like good cooking.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You know, you want to rush your food and it ain't got all the seasoning right, or it ain't cooked all the way. You know, that type of thing. You don't want to eat that kind of food.
Come on.
You know? So, to me, cooking is very like making music. You know, you want something timeless. You want a person to long for the food again. You know, when they go and they leave that plate, they feel like, you know what, I got to go back.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, you know? Bro, definitely, man.
So, yeah, that's a foremost thought whenever I'm working on music. And so, just to wrap that thought up, the project is to me, I call it American Pimp, primarily because of the 1999 DVD that I saw of the Hughes brothers that did the Pimps, you know, the documentary on the Pimps.
Right.
And when I saw the documentary, I was like, man, this is a bad documentary.
Yeah, okay, right.
But after I got finished, I was like, damn, but they missed the whole, you know, the whole deepness.
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
There's a whole depth you missed. You
right.
know? Or whole levels that you missed with this particular documentary. And ultimately, I'm not taking away from the documentary, but it opened my mind to say, I'll make an album that will further what it is they started.
Right.
You know, because I feel like they probably just couldn't add that extra layer.
Right.
So that gave me an end to go ahead and take it further. And surprisingly, we 2016, and I haven't seen nobody that's put out an album that with that same name. Right. And if they did, I almost would know that they not thinking what I'm thinking.
What you thinking.
Right
now, and on that, do you see any similarities to how, let's say, the pimps his worker or a night walker or a street, whatever you want to call it, without a hose. How the pimp his hose, and how America has pimped us as a people.
Absolutely. And that's that extra layer. That's one of the extra layers that's not spoken on. And of course, you know, they wanted to make an entertaining DVD, I'm sure.
Right.
And you know, it would have been a little less entertaining in 1999 than it is now.
Yeah.
For you to put that political connotation onto it. So to put that spin or bring that spin into it, I've watched from 2005 to now and seen how it's being added to our social fabric.
Come on.
And because it's being added, it only confirms what I thought would be a good idea in 2005 is going to be a great idea when I finish with the project.
Right. Because your music is not only entertaining, but it's a message behind the music.
Absolutely.
And you're right, people are waking up and they have a thirst for knowledge.
That's right.
Because they want to know, because you can only develop and grow with knowledge.
That's right.
So it's like a you going to you being entertained, but you going to school at the same time, and you can take that knowledge and then apply it to your life, or it opens up your eyes to where you can see with that third eye. You see with your mind, and you
That's right.
Now you're doing your mathematics on the situation, and now you know how to get out the way.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
So that's that is why it's important, especially for artists, to do their due diligence in studying, because and it also preserves the song.
That's right.
Because you can go back as a reference, and then people can also say that, well, yeah, I learned this from this song, but yeah, I applied it, in my own way. But this was the foundation that allowed me to step up a little higher where I can see what's actually going on. And then in return, it's beneficial because it has, let's say, saving benefits in a sense, so you don't get jammed up in certain situations or certain aspects in life.
That's right.
So, yeah, and man, we need that, and the representation coming out the South, and you have conscious artists, and you hear brothers such as K. Reno, big shout out to Cliche, female artists doing that thing, and everything that's good sister that's inspiring, that's taking place right here in the city and Texas throughout, because you always had the spirit of unity anyway.
Absolutely.
Brother worked with anybody, it didn't matter,
It didn't matter.
It
still don't matter.
Don't matter. Let's move. You know what I mean?
That's right.
But the good thing is, I never saw you beat nobody down to jump in front of the camera.
Nope.
You know what I mean?
Nope.
Put the spotlight on me. Hey, everybody, look at me.
That's right.
It was always been more of, look, let me share this gift with you, and we can sit down and build, man, enjoy life.
That's right. And I'm glad you brought that point out, and I'm gonna spin that back to my foundation in the Coppertone Conspiracy, and the reason why we called ourselves Coppertone Conspiracy was because it wasn't important to any of us to have a face in front of the people. It was all about the work.
That's right.
The music.
That's
when
right.
you listen to the music, that was what spoke to the listener. And so we didn't want to be models and cute and all that there.
Right.
Even though I don't think I'm not handsome, I'm just saying that that's secondary.
Right.
What's first is the ability to utilize what God gives us to change life in a positive way.
Right.
Right.
So because now we getting back into slave mind. Because let's say for instance, pre-slavery, let's say pre-1555, right? Where we had astrology, astronomy, we had knowledge, First University, Timbuktu, so we had a mind that was given to us directly from the Creator Himself.
All right.
Now you go into and now we walking into 1555. John Hardy Hawkins, slave ship Jesus, brought the first over here. Yeah. They start working on creating that slave mind, and some will revert back to the Willie Lynch letters.
Yeah.
And so now they say, okay, from that happening, now we're acting other than ourselves, but we was taught by a slave master. Mm-hmm. Of course, he's not going to give you information and knowledge to better yourselves, because he needs to control you.
That's correct.
So now, as stated in the Willie Lynch letters, that if you apply this method, then it will have effects beyond thousands of years.
That's right. Over 400 years.
Over 400 years. Mm-hmm. So now you have people who are born, because the talking drum has always been a system or a method of communication.
That's right.
So then you have people born into the world who's saying, well, look, let me take on the job, the hard job, because it's not easy.
That's right.
Because if it was the easy road is, I'm finna get out here and call women bitches and hoes and cuss, and I'm finna do the jig and go and get this money.
Absolutely.
Easy.
Absolutely.
But the hard part is to go back and put something in a mind.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To combat the slave mind, to give you knowledge on what black is, or how to conduct yourself, or how to guide yourself using a system of mathematics science.
Absolutely.
Being analytical in your thought process.
Absolutely.
And then you would notice every time that you inspire someone, then they'll go and dig in their Negro bank, and they'll pull one up to combat what that one said.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the thirst now today is so hungry that they saying, man, I want this knowledge.
That's right.
Man, is there anybody, artists out there, man, that can give me, a conscious message, but with the the knowledge in it that can penetrate through all of the slave making tools they use against me to bring me back up to what they call a living perpendicular.
That's right.
You know,
Absolutely.
so how important is it from we say going on into the future? If you was a visionary, if you visualizing, is it detrimental to stand on knowledge in today's time, especially with all the things going on in society today? Trump president, people going crazy behind that and whatnot.
Yeah.
Is it imperative, or let's say, is it imperative for your survival to soak in knowledge and to understand who you are?
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, just to kind of answer that correctly, or as I hear your question, it's all a spiritual war. That's what all this is. And men like me and you have made a conscious decision to go against the grain. So there's no, it's detrimental to our survival for us to give of what we have in gifts from God in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding.
Come on.
And that is added to the creativity or to the creative gifts that He has added as well.
Come on.
So we couple those two things and we go as a force to the people, and that makes us angels on this earth during this time that we're living in. And we won't fail.
That's right.
We won't fail because God is with us, and because we just do it because it's in us to do.
Right.
And we do it because it's in our soul and we won't sell it. We will be successful. And God will see us be successful at the end of the day. And the one that you were just talking about, that it was easy for to just say, you know what, I'm going to go get this paper, blah, blah, blah. That's a different mindset. That mindset is looking for ease and looking for somebody to take care of them, looking for something outside of God that is the positive force in the universe. It's looking for, that other thing.
Right.
And it's not as strong, and it's very easy for us to succumb to our flesh and succumb to whatever the world say we need, which is money, for instance.
Right.
Did God create money? Yeah, He did through a tree. You know?
That's right.
But the system
is
designed to, exactly, and the system is designed to make that dollar so important that, for instance, and this is the cool part about us being a little older, is that we remember when the dollar was worth something.
Right.
We remember when you could buy some groceries, or you could go buy a bunch of candy with $1.
With $1. You can get some gas for 93 cents.
Yeah. Nah, you can't buy a Snicker for $1.
Nah, that's over.
You can't get one candy for that. So my point is, the dollar has fallen, and now it takes the average man to work 3 times harder to make that dollar worth anything.
Right.
So now time comes into play.
Come on.
And because there's 24 hours in a day and you got 3 jobs, you by the time you finish hustling for them dollars, then you have spent everything. You don't have anything left of yourself to give to the universe or to anyone less fortunate than yourself.
Right. You lose yourself.
That's correct. And it's by design.
Yes, sir.
But once again, when you have men like us that have dedicated their lives to reach back to the man that doesn't have as much spiritual gifts or even creative gifts, then we give it all and we put it all on the line, and there ain't nothing for us to do it and to continue to do it for the rest of our lives. And the sad part about it is the Bob Marleys, the Marcus Garveys, and the Malcolm X's, are no longer here. Martin Luther King's, those type of men are no longer here to be able to speak on their legacy and what they were trying to do. we have to figure that out.
Right.
And for me to be in the land of the living still,
Right.
and have put in my work as long as I have,
Come on.
primarily it's contributed to me not being a part of that greater system
Right.
that is designed for those of us who want to be seen.
That's right.
More than we want to be heard or to affect another life.
Right. And we appreciate the time that you take into the music, because what I see, and this is my personal opinion, and when you go back and you study and you study things such as the Egyptian mystery system, art, music was a science. Mm-hmm. Music was mathematics.
That's right.
That was the foundation. So I'm pretty sure our ancestors appreciate brothers such as yourself for carrying that on, because that was detrimental to survival.
Absolutely.
That's how they send messages out.
Yeah.
You know, it was a skill. So on that last note, before we close this thing out, right? As far as the science of music, and you dealing with keys, and you're dealing with notes, and you're dealing with rhythm, and you're dealing with time. Frequencies. And I'm glad you come. He took it right out of my mouth. Frequencies. Now, can frequencies be used to raise someone up or bring them down?
Absolutely.
At the right frequency to touch at what they would say your base chakra.
That's right.
And you will wonder why you might be zombied out.
Absolutely.
Now, do they master that science on how to make it effective towards this goal?
The science for everything. See, that's the beauty of the enemy. You could study your enemy, and you would learn so much more. Those of us that that don't know. I'm
right.
saying.
Right.
Okay, for instance, I'm going to give you a good example. We were taught that music was based upon 440 hertz.
Right.
Okay? And what I've learned, in extension to that, is that was not the original frequency in which the vibration of the music would reach man.
Come on.
The original was 432 hertz.
Come on.
And in the 40s, they changed the standard to 440 hertz. And there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that, a grandiose reason for that. And at the end of the day, if you look from the 40s to now, you will definitely see a great deterioration of man in the spiritual aspects.
Okay.
Meaning the intuition, the things that music in its right frequencies build in a man,
right,
now have been taken from that man, and now you don't see him in the same way. He's confused. He's in a whole different place than if you had left the frequencies where they were supposed to go. So it's their job to get in the way of what is right. And it's our job to get it back in place.
Come on, where it's supposed to be. So then that means that 440 hertz, that means that the electricity or the energy that's in the body it might be suffocating.
Absolutely.
Because
it's not getting the nutrients.
And I remember in the late 70s, the early 80s, I do remember the people in the community was more vibrant. Mm-hmm. And folks was happy, they moving, they building, we connected. And the funny thing about it is you could have a dream and when you were younger, wake up that next morning, tell one of your partners, man, I had something similar to that. It was like the electricity was moving through the community, folks picking up on each other.
That's right.
Thoughts, and it was building.
Right. That's right.
So they was in on that. So they said, okay, well let me bump it up a notch. We finna 440 on.
Well, now look, okay. Like you said, in the 70s. Now we're talking about 30 years after they changed the vibration.
Right.
The thing that helped them survive in the 70s was now they were playing live instruments.
Mm-hmm.
Get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So that could be tuned, and when a man play, for instance, the drums, it ain't necessarily no 440.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what he felt.
Mm-hmm.
So you could feel the energy from what he was playing by everybody, and not a bassist. He doing his thing, and then you know, and they just played. It wasn't necessarily no frequency or they sitting there with the little tuning thing. What the little thing called? Where they sit there and tune the instrument before they get started. We all know about that in the studio, y'all. But either way, that wasn't necessarily what they were using in the 70s. It was more so of a pick the instrument up and roll. And so when you listen to the music today, it has much more synergy because you got one man feeding off another man, feeding off another man, and feeding off another man or woman or whatever is playing the instruments, the voices, everything is just timeless.
Right.
And so today, now the electronic age has taken place. All right, yeah, like you said, are we looking at 2016 now, way away from the 40s. Right. Now they done changed the frequency of the music. Everything is electronic. Excuse me, and it's set at that 440 hertz. And you got vaccinations. Yeah. You got bad food. You got politics. You got television, electronics, all kinds of stuff in the way of the greatness of man. This, if you see any focus out of this generation, it is a miracle.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just have to say that because they so distracted and so taken away from the vibration of the origin.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? They so way off.
Right. The devil is the Pied Piper sending out the tune and leading people to the slaughter. Mm-hmm. And you're right, they so not saying zombified, but they attacked. Attacked, and they don't even know they going in the you walking right over the cliff and can't see it. But it's like you say, those pieces to the puzzle are missing. Mm-hmm. And so you're right. And so brothers like yourself will have to roll up the sleeves, go in there and, fight to put it back. But you're right. But you will have obstacles.
That's right.
And it's true. Everybody that says melanin don't have the mind of a melanated man. They took on something on the mind of the oppressor. Absolutely. And so they'll take that money, even though they know what's being done, but if you see if you believe in karmic law, universal law, and time, when you look at them towards the end, they trying to apologize.
Absolutely.
Man, look what I done did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the devil don't give you the whole plan.
Yeah, that's right.
But he'll show you at the end when you done how the dirt turn you around. Look what you done did.
That's right.
Now
that's
how you gonna sleep at night?
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
Hey, it's happening all over. Now look, on Verbal Pick Radio, right? Now we doing something different. My boy Gino in the house.
Okay, what's up,
now,
Gino?
What I want to do, man, for me, R&B, rapper, man, I would like y'all, man, to put something together, man. But on the knowledge tip. Now, and you heard Muhammad 2G speak on the hertz and frequencies of music. Now, in a metaphysical aspect, how would you describe that for the masses? Because the whole purpose is we want to wake them up. A movement has been started, especially in 1995, Million Man March, a million hearing a voice, but a vibration that's hitting that inner cord, and they up now. Mm-hmm. So now what we need to do is, and they had children. So that means, let's say from 95 to 2015, let's say in the million that had those children, we'll put that at, let's say that's now, we'll say 2.5 million on the scene. Then you had the anniversary, and we'll throw another million on that. So 3.5 million in the field we got to work with. Mm-hmm. How can we hit that metaphysical to stand them up?
Man, well, I tell you one thing is when you talk about metaphysics and we talk about the music today, like for instance, we say turn up music. You know what I'm saying? Well, the whole thing with that turn music, to what the brother right here speaking on, which brother, what's your name?
But
Muhammad 2G. Nice to meet you, bro.
You too, brother.
Speaking your stuff, God, for
Yes,
real.
sir. Appreciate you.
But when you're talking about operating from that frequency, we talking about operating from the root chakra. And so it's amazing because when you come into metaphysical knowledge and you understand, especially if you're a musician too, and now you can understand how certain of these vibrations, these frequencies, how you can relate to the people. So when you're talking about raising up through your chakras, certain, like we're talking about 440, that's the God, or at least they saying that's the God frequency. And so when you're talking about operating from that frequency, man, and then you're talking about putting positive music, knowledgeable music, our history, our past, our greatness. I think, man, it'd be amazing stuff what we can do, you know. And so that's what me and my crew we into. We're trying to raise ourselves up, and if we can help raise up our people in the process, man, it's just a great thing.
Yeah. So we community building,
No doubt.
right here in the H. I mean, the universe makes a connection on its own. Things will aspire without us getting in the way of.
Right.
That's
It's
right.
gonna line it up.
But listen, just what you saying. That's all I was gonna say to this brother here is that all we gotta do is what we do.
Exactly.
Now, come on.
And everything gonna line up.
Anyway, come on.
God is involved.
Right,
God
right.
frequency is involved. Then.
Yeah.
That's right.
You know, so I mean, there's a degree of strategy we got to use, but ultimately, when we get in there and we are creative, tapping into the greatness of self
That's right.
and trusting,
Right.
you know, being able to say, you know what, whatever I do, because my heart is right and my intentions are right,
it's gonna be all
it's
right.
gonna be good.
So you don't worry about the distrust.
No.
Because we trying to break that distrust amongst us as a people. Because they would say, man, you put us in a room together, fight gonna break out. Somebody gonna get hurt. Man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody come in happy, but by the end of it, it broke out in chaos.
Yeah.
But that was a system that was done by design as well.
That's right.
Let me say this, Black, is that that won't necessarily be the case if you're operating on a certain level. You know what I'm saying? And certain knowledge.
Right.
I think when you're talking about the vision and things like that coming into your point, man, I think that's just the falling of us. When you're talking about this division, war, and things like this, man was once spiritual.
Right.
That's
And
right.
then as time went on, we started falling more and more into the physical. So that's when you get this thing of, different wars. I want this, I want that
That's right,
land.
that's right.
You know what I'm saying? So what we're talking about now is raising that frequency right back up to where, and it's happening right now.
Yeah.
I mean, everywhere I go, man, I'm meeting not people on it.
They want it.
It
They
wasn't like
want
that
it.
10, 15 years. That's a
right.
fact,
No.
man.
That's right.
So, but we in the time of the Noah.
That's right.
The Aquarian age. So it's no coincidence
That's right.
that
But-
we know what we know.
That's
We're
right.
doing what we do.
But that's the whole purpose of what I'm saying. This brother was a pioneer. This brother's music, this brother worked with Whitney Houston. This brother going back, setting that foundation for what we have in today because he didn't transgress from his spirit.
Spirit self, right?
He spirit self. He kept on it, and people listening, they waking up. You know what I mean? Meaning we had something else to look at. Or it's like in the movie, the dirty water, clean water.
Exactly.
After a while, folks want their clean water now
right.
because you can't progress on the dirty water.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So and from Houston that song, man, and I know everywhere you go, they don't you can't get away from don't you
can't.
go
No, I
nowhere
Okay.
without me.
Okay.
He can't get away from that because and not comparing you to Pop, but you and Pop put y'all life experience of what y'all been through in the music, and people can relate
Absolutely.
to that. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Built that foundation, and then it kept moving. So now in this time, that the children of the parents that heard it, and they hearing some real in music, and they hearing the real vibration, and they hearing the vibration in the voice and the music, and they know that the story is true because they feeling it. and they like, well, man, this
Wondering how.
inspired me. Yeah,
Yeah.
how is this? I gotta.
It's in your genes.
Yeah, it's in
to
the
fit.
yeah.
You know, it's just like in the 70s. What our parents experienced, we was hearing it in the song, and as when our children would hear Michael Jackson song, I can tell you now, my oldest son is 23. When he heard a Michael Jackson song, a little bitty boy, it was like Michael Jackson was the dude at that time. You get what I'm saying?
Right, I get what you're saying.
Michael Jackson had gone 15, 20 years prior to that. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
But it was like he was new because he was in my blood and my genes. So when my son heard it, it was like, man, this Michael Jackson.
Some sound familiar.
It's spiritual lineage.
That's right.
You get what I'm saying? So there's not a disconnection. I don't care how many years from now. You know, so if the music is good, if we stay pure, if we stay true to the purity of the spirit, then years later it don't matter. It's timeless. It's still gonna touch the people just the same.
Just the same.
Just the same.
Now, before we go, bro, Gino, man, every time I get Bro Gino with me, man, I ask him, man, to just spit something for the people, man. Because the brother inspires me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people gotta hear what's to come, because I'm gonna work, man. Y'all to do a cut together, man. And this is one of the top producers in the city, man.
Already.
And done work with Shaq, man. They're all over. So just for a minute, so y'all can prepare yourselves, man. Get ready. You know what I mean? Of what's to come, man. Matter of fact, we bonding generations. We finna bond generations. You know what I mean? Grab some for me, Gino. For your boy, man.
Putting you on the spot.
Let's see.
This talent, man.
Let's see.
Really got talent.
Okay. These are the times we all wish for. The moment we left means so much more. We don't have to do a thing at all. We can take our time and talk, and this is the way things need to be. No pressures from you and none from me. Let's let the mood set the moment up. We can make love or not at all.
Come on.
All right.
You know what I'm talking about?
real.
You see what I'm talking about? Nothing but talent in the city. But y'all got to collab, man. That's what I'm talking about.
That's real.
That's
Yeah,
real.
we'll exchange numbers and all
Yeah,
that.
We're making it happen. Look,
All right.
another episode, Verbal Pick Radio, where we
Pick.
give you a verbal image of life, and we are everyday people. I got the pioneer Muhammad 2G in the building. Gino, you know what I mean? The R&B, man. You know, and singing out of a man and an artist out of a man with knowledge. And it's going to come through the music.
That's right.
And we out. Definitely. Peace. We out.
That's what's up.
Did he set that camera up right? Look. All right, Shaw, we coming after you, man. When you got one of us on the camera, man. We the